Okay, guys, so today we are going to be talking about hard gainers and what happens at a physiological level on what causes gains to be hard for some individuals. But let's rule out some of the more common reasons why people don't gain, and that is just because they have either outdated information or information that is not specific to their bodies. So that means they're doing too much PE, they're doing too little PE, they're not pumping with enough pressure, they're pumping with too much pressure, too much time, not enough recovery. List goes on, but essentially, there is a very narrow window where PE works. And then if we go a little bit too far beyond that, we're not going to see any gains. And if we don't get into that range, we're not going to see any improvements whatsoever. So what I'm saying is like you need the adequate amount of work. We can't be going too hard or too little. The Goldilocks, the Goldilocks, rather, and that's what's going to lead to long-term success with PE. Now, life isn't fair. We know that there's going to be people that can get gigantic biceps from birth, and guys like me take 8 years to finally build up respectable arms. So PE is the same way. Some guys will literally gain by just tugging on it and grow an inch in 4 months. Others will take years to gain their first inch. Life's not fair, but let's talk about why it's not fair. But before I go any further, be sure to like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow this YouTube channel. It's how I support myself. So help me out there. Also, Fortitude's back in stock. It is our libido enhancer. It's pretty damn good if I do say so myself. Limited quantities available at this time, so get it while it's hot. Now, if everything is equal, meaning diet, training, and nutrition, while all of this is very minute for PE, we can roll all that out for this thought exercise. What are the physiological factors that are going to limit gains? First one is what I'm calling sticky tunicas. If you watched my video on retention and based off of my YouTube metrics, looks like most of you did. Essentially, soft tissues have the propensity to return to its original shape. So if you're constantly shriveled up and flaccid, it's going to grow in the shriveled and flaccid state. So we still will be growing. Just it's more like our flaccid size is going to get denser, and by proxy, that's going to make our erect length longer. But it does not necessarily mean it will translate well, especially for guys that are growers. So if you're a shower like myself, you're going to be closer to your erect size, which is going to make that collagen lay down more like your erect size. However, if you're a grower, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle to get that collagen to grow out into the bigger shape. We're calling this a sticky tunica because since the tissues like to return to its baseline shape, if we have a higher propensity to not adapt to this new shape, it's going to be harder for that collagen to build up in that new shape. So you're really densifying in this old shape rather than growing in this new shape. So if you didn't want to watch my 16, maybe it was 20-minute video on retention, the gist is after your elongation sessions, you probably want to stay just a bit elongated for about 2 to 6 hours. And after girth sessions, you probably want to wear a cock ring for 30 minutes to an hour to really train that new shape. The cock ring is still to be determined if it's safe enough for long-term wear like that. So this channel is basically a live journal, right? It makes it very hard to know what I actually think is the best way to grow your penis. That is why I have written my books, BD's Big Book of Length and Girth Expansion Pack. Essentially, it takes what I've learned over the past 2 or 3 years and throws out everything that was speculative, and it's the proven stuff that works, at least from a scientific perspective. So if you're struggling to follow along here on this YouTube, might be worth your while. Next up is high stress or sexual trauma relating to size. So we talked about this probably in November, but the idea of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. When we are tense, our entire nervous system sends out signals to be ready to fight. So part of that is pulling blood away from your torso and your genitals up into your arms and legs so that way you can fight or flight. The world is not set up for us to be very relaxed anymore. We're always being bombarded by bad news on social media. We're expected to work 40-plus hour jobs. It's very easy to be stressed the fuck out. And if you're not sleeping, it is going to be even easier. So we're basically training our penis to be in the fight or flight state. So tense in, a grower state. Again, it's not bad being a grower, but like this is more than just like I have more elastin in my penis, therefore it shrivels up more. This is like I have no blood going to my penis. I am not getting enough blood flow to allow for gains from penis enlargement. Or even more so, I'm not allowing this collagen to be built up in this longer state because I'm always tense. So if we can't get into a relaxed state the majority of the day, we're going to have issues growing. Then with sexual trauma. Now, I'm not saying necessarily like sexual assault, but so let's say you've had size insecurity your entire life. That's a form of sexual trauma, especially if it really scarred you with a romantic partner, for example. It will make it very difficult for you to have a positive relationship with your penis. So even while you're doing this PE exercises, you will have that shriveling intense effect, making it very hard for you to elongate and expand in a reasonable fashion. So I'm not saying go to therapy, but some of you may want to consider it just to help get over these issues. And then another caveat in all this, people that require a lot of like hip flexor and hip abductor movements for sports, so that'd be like gymnasts, wrestlers, powerlifters, they can develop hypertonic pelvic floors because their bodies never really learned how to separate the pelvic floor flexion from the hip flexor and abductor flexion. So every time they like do a split or do a grapple, they will flex their pelvic floor inadvertently, making it super strong, super tense, and then make it very hard for it to relax, not allowing blood flow in. So while it's not necessarily the same idea as a parasympathetic or a sympathetic response the entire time, it is not good for gains long term. Some of my hardest gainers were wrestlers from when I was a coach. So keep that in mind as well. So Leviathan has been very busy this year. We now have 6 supplements for you to choose from. Way too much to go over in a minute. But essentially, if you're just trying to increase blood flow for performance or whatever you desire, check out Fortitude and Vigor. If you're looking to increase sensation, check out Virility and Fortitude. Then, if you're just looking for a pretty damn good testosterone booster, Vitality is a good bet. Then we have Shield, which is our nerve support supplement, very useful to keeping things spry and sensitive. Then we have Safeguard, which is our soft tissue support, so good for joints, knees, and anything else that you could think of. All this stuff was formulated by my business partner, who happens to be a doctor, so all the stuff is research-backed, adequately dosed, but more importantly, fairly priced, and will help you achieve your goals. So check them out, Leviathan Wellness on Amazon and leviathansups.com. So this one needs a bit more explanation. Stem cell density. So just to clear something up from high school, we were taught very simplified biology where our body is made up of cells and those cells do things. More specifically, those cells make proteins, and that's what actually does things around the body. So in tendons and ligaments, they're called fibroblasts. For simplicity, I'm just going to call them fibroblasts here. The penis, the tunica albuginea, is mostly collagen proteins, which then are repaired, replaced, and built by the fibroblast of the tunica albuginea. So it is not cells, it is not mitosis, it is hypertrophy and proliferation of penile tissue that causes gains. So if these fibroblasts, these stem cells in the penis, are what are responsible for producing collagen proteins, the more builders we have, the more fibroblasts we have, the faster we can gain. So if I have 10% more fibroblasts than average, I will gain 10% faster than the average man. Now, the way we can, kind of even the playing field a bit is potentially with PRP. Science is very sound on how it works. Essentially, you take the non-differentiated stem cells from your blood and inject them into your penis, and over the course of 6 to 12 weeks, they convert into penile fibroblasts and other cells needed for penis function, probably something specific for blood vessel development. However, most health spas do not do PRP right, and I just learned this. So essentially, there's two ways you can draw PRP. One way will require double the injection volume compared to the other because you need to twice spin it to get the post potent form of PRP. Most places skip that step because it is much more expensive and time consuming. So keep that in mind if you want to do PRP. There's still real no good evidence that it works outside of some studies that have some conflicts of interest helping its case there. So that's one thing. Then, so PRP might increase stem cell count in the penis. IGF might be a good option, but it takes a while for these normal stem cells, these undifferentiated stem cells in your bloodstream, to migrate to the penis and then turn into penile fibroblast. So we won't see the effects of IGF-1 for a while. And more specifically, IGF is going to have a much greater effect on muscle building than it will with collagen building, just because that tissue is much more nutrient hungry and ready to grow, if that makes sense. Now, a more interesting compound for this, and guys, I'm not saying inject shit into you. I'm definitely saying don't inject stuff into your penis. But this is just like talking it out and seeing what might have effects down the line. All right, now an interesting compound for this, and don't do drugs, kids, but mechano growth factor, MGF. You won't know how many times I fucked that up saying that. Is like IGF-1, except instead of signaling for the differentiation of stem cells in the bloodstream to be more specialized satellite cells, it signals just the activation of these satellite cells, what I've been calling fibroblast. So we can really upregulate whatever protein transcription if they are sensitive to MGF. And it would seem like tendons and ligaments are sensitive to MGF. So it's not a stretch that MGF has some effect on penis size. Now, it is not very systemic. It is very localized. So do not inject anything into your penis unless you know what you're doing and you understand the risk. It hurts injecting shit into your penis. There is a high chance of fibrosis every time you inject into your penis. It is not worth the risk long term for potentially 10% more gains. It'd be like doing PE for an extra 3 to 4 months to gain that extra quarter of an inch. It's not worth it. It's expensive. But for the idea of stem cell density, it might make sense. So the main takeaway is that if you have more builders in said tissue, the penis, the tunica albuginea, you will see more gains compared to the average individual. Another thing that came up was pelvic floor issues. We already touched about this on the high stress environment, but like this is more specific to having a physiological problem. So you can develop a strained pelvic floor in many ways. You can develop a tight pelvic floor in many ways. But essentially, anything that's going to limit blood flow to the penis is going to limit nutrient delivery, and therefore you're going to have issues gaining. So if your iliocavernous muscle, that is the small muscle that controls the ins and outs downstairs, causing erections, is kind of like a faucet turned halfway off, including or blocking blood flow to the penis, you're not going to see as hard as erections, and you're not going to see as full of flaccid just because there's just no blood getting to the penis, and that could potentially limit gains. There's a few other ways pelvic floor issues can limit gains, but for the most part, it's going to be the iliocavernous muscle blocking erections and any blood getting to the penis while flaccid. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for today. Sticky tunicas, with growers more likely to have issues gaining than showers. High stress environments and sexual trauma causing issues with doing PE and recovering properly afterwards. Stem cell density not allowing people to gain as fast as other people just because they don't have as many workers to do the work. And then pelvic floor issues can all lead to a physical blockage of gains, essentially, or at least a physiological reason for it rather than user error. So once you rule out user error, go through this list, and it'd be a good point to start. I would say always start with retention. At this point, once you have your routine set in, it would seem like it's going to be the biggest help for most guys from a physiotherapy perspective. Then we can start talking about stem cell density, but I'm assuming most people are going to be average on that as well. All right, I'm starting to ramble. I will see you in the next one. I am currently reworking my Patreon. At $10 a month, you'll get access to this video ad-free, as well as all my written content. So that'd be scripts for my YouTube and anything else I just want to talk about on my Patreon. Then at $20 a month, you will get this video for free, my written content, and then not safe for work access. So I can work right into the video demonstrations if they come up. I can also just post demonstrations without having to worry about it here on YouTube, potentially nuking my channel. So then we're also going to be offering concierge routines. Essentially, send us your life, send us the equipment you have, what you currently tried, and how often you can do PE. And we'll try to make the best routine that fits your lifestyle, that matches what I currently think is the best way to gain. So check out my Patreon if you're interested in any of that.